is that song appropriate? Hey guys, welcome to another session of Recessional of the Red Dragons. Last time, the Bebop Bounty Hunters have actually met the Maverick Hunters, as well as the Pokemon trainers, during their exile on Earth. So, they just came across Able City, which is the home turf of the Maverick Hunters, as well as the Reploids, especially for X and Zero, in which they would actually spend the night there. And, a little spoiler alert, they're going to meet up with Radical Edward, as well as her family, and I. And this song is, well, I usually hate Majora's Mask with a passion as much as the angry video game nerd does. The song I just played would be very appropriate here. Alright, let's get this started. Alright, Chapter 7, The Final Hours. Before I forget, I don't know any of the material, I'm just a fan of Pokemon as well as Mega Man X, as well as Cowboy Bebop. With less than 24 hours remaining, at least in Earth's Japanese Standard Time, the Red Dragon War was drawing nearer and nearer. Trudy then had another dream involving the same opaque chamber where the music box stood, playing the same subtle melody. Only this time there was a saxophone and a piano playing it instead. Then, she was walking up to it, the song ended abruptly as a strong gust carried dust and blew the artifact away, shattering it in a nearby unseen wall. There was some kind of a blizzard, and the temperature suddenly got very frigid. This almost reminded Trudy of her time in Callisto. She was chasing after Spike in his hopes to find Julia, though he was unsuccessful. Only this time she was on a summit of a very high mountain that had a gentle slope. The sky was like a burnt cinnabar, and the storm only kept getting more violent. This is all a dream. Amongst the wind, Trudy heard an alto female voice speak to her, as if she was talking telepathically, her deep words ringing in her ears. Noticing Trudy was shivering and trembling and had pale skin and lips, Faye woke her up afterwards. By the time Trudy finally got herself together, she described the dream and then requested Faye that when they get back to Mars, they need to make a quick pit stop somewhere in Tharsis. She remembered an old antique store that was run by an eccentric elderly man that seemed to collect many outdated goods from Earth, mostly audio and video cassettes. She wondered if there would be a music box there, the same one from her dreams, and wanted the melody on it to be exactly the same as that tune she kept hearing. Faye remembered it was this place when she received some tapes that highlighted her earlier years. Hunters! It didn't seem so thrilled. Radical Edward and her family are here again. X was a bit coy for their arrival. Here comes the world's youngest and best hacker on the planet. And annoying. They reluctantly followed... Not now. Not now! They reluctantly followed the Reploid to the main entrance where they were waiting outside. As expected, the skinny tall kid grew more ecstatic. If she ever makes another attempt to hack into the city systems or us, she's out of here. Don't worry, I'm sure she'll behave herself since she knows of the ban. X and Zero made it clear that the Maverick Hunters, as well as their comrades, weren't mere playthings to the hyperactive tech geek. At least her dad and his associate McIntyre were better company. Meanwhile, the same messenger gave the intel toward the bounty hunters of their friend's arrival. Trudy was the first to immediately rise up and head downstairs to the front exit. Eddie! Hey! With a humongous giddy smile, Edward ran to the quintet. Trudy! It's good to see you! Hey! Sure enough, it was her father, Mr. Appledelli, lifting her up. Let's try and hold ourselves together, huh? This isn't considered to be decent behavior. Oh, sorry. Trudy still got the wind knocked out of her when she heard a familiar bark. It belonged to the little corgi, the puppy with the high IQ who looked very glad to see her. His eyes were sparkling as he smiled and panted, then started licking her. It's, nice to see you too, Wine. Voice was raspy from its sudden impact. Ooh, Bebop, Bebop, Crew is here! Wow! Where's Spiky? Is he here? Everyone hesitated until Fate gathered the courage to speak. He's waiting for us on Mars, but he's working for the Red Dragon Crime Syndicate. That made Edward stop in her tracks, wearing a curious expression. Those were the evil people, those were the evil people. The men in black that wanted to kill Spike back in Callisto, and then in Tharsis. He's one of them now. What do you mean? The enemy? Spikey's an enemy? Ein seemed to share the shock as he whimpered. Even he couldn't believe that was true. So that's what happened to him when my son left the Bebop and wanted to be with us. McIntyre was sort of different since he hardly knew him, though Edward was been talking to her dad a lot. Yes, unfortunately there's going to be a war on Mars, and Syndicate is leading it. Her heart is heavy as lead. First the war on Titan, and now this. They're making their way here if they should destroy all of Mars. Trudy has some allies who will arrive here soon. Some Pokemon trainers who are cousins volunteered for the war effort. They're very skilled in combat, and they're hailed as champions from their homelands. She looked toward Edward, then her father, and asked if he could use her talents as a hacker to get into the Red Dragon's database, if they have one. I guess you have my permission, but how do you know they have a computer system for her to hack into? They are a crime syndicate. I'm sure they have data concerning where they are and how they operate their objectives. He then realized that Aberdelli's name sounded very similar to Affedersiniz Hesap Lufin, which was a Turkish sentence meaning, excuse me, check please. To X, his name sounded like Apple Deli instead as it did to Trudy. Look, can you hack into the Red Dragon's database? I believe it's somewhere in Mars. Ed, try! At the central room, she plopped her little yellow gizmo down and went to work. She did her magic and rows of columns of numbers scrolled erratically throughout the little computer monitor. Her sunglasses were lowered to shield her eyes from the glare. Soon enough, the codes were being detected from somewhere on Earth's neighboring planet. Ooh, goody, goody, goody. Very, very high. Big, tall mountain. The onlookers got a glimpse of a landmark on the red planet. It was located on the east side and it was protruding through it like a long, sharp knife. That's Olympus Mons. The signal seems to be coming from a few miles below the summit. He explained that Olympus Mons was the tallest mountain in the universe. It was rumored to be 3 times higher than Earth's Mount Everest in the Himalayas. Nothing managed to breach its top, though it had a gentle slope. But no one was able to reach the highest point of the mountain. If the Red Dragon's base is surely there, then we might not make it. We can! Everyone looked at Trudy, except Edward, who was still playing around the keyboard. I think. She mentioned that one of Marina's Hoenn Pokemon cast form is capable of changing weather patterns. Jet remembered one time when Mars's thin atmosphere was ideal for changing the weather, as there was a control tower used to do just that. He recalled Spike telling him that Laughing Bull said the highest point can only shift Mars's weather and make it rain, which was put into good use as it expanded the antibodies, reversing the lethal effects of a disease spread by Vincent's nanomachines. I'm sure you guys remember the Cowboy Bebop movie, Knocking on Heaven's Door. That could work! Cast form could change the extremely freezing climate and let us slip through. If we could manipulate the weather, that could put us in a home field advantage. We could also use it to cause devastating storms to cripple our enemies. It's also rumored that Dragonair could do just that as well. We could surely win this. If we can change the climate, then we can change anything. I wouldn't be so brash. We must be careful. I've seen landslides happen from time to time when the heat goes so intense and melts the foundation. If Cast Form's abilities are too much, then this could cause some devastating results if not managed properly. Zero's right. Plus, the trainers all have fire types. Fire melts ice, and despite the tumultuous terrain, we should use them reasonably. I think we should infiltrate the mountain on foot. Flying the spacecraft could get us noticed and we could be shot down. Ed, have you found any arrangements regarding the war? She looked up and seemed dazed confused. Give her a little time to process herself. Edward! She eventually snapped out of her flunk. Hack into the database some more and see where they would be gathered. I believe it should be away from Tharsis and the massive canyon system Vallis Marinaris. Then again, those heartless bastards can harm anyone if they should get in their way. You must never let them cross the borderline and into the valley. I'm sure Olympus Mons would be heavily guarded, just like their headquarters. Trudy's mind drifted to her final moments with Spike, following the path of destruction, winding up in the bright corridor as she witnessed him fall. Hey! We gotta stay sharp! He was a little heartbroken by his demise and toxic revival. Even when one of his allies, Bob, screamed at him he should leave Mars immediately since the Red Dragons were far too much for the ISSP. Finito! She received all the intel needed. Then her dad helped her to break it down so it'd be similar for everyone to understand. There's still one problem. We won't have enough transport to take all of us to Mars. We brought only 3 spacecrafts, our shuttle, the Red Tail, and the Hammerhead. When we bring in the trainers, we won't have enough room to carry in more bodies. Maybe easy targets for the snipers. They're highly trained assassins. Oh, allow me. They suddenly saw a woman that looked masculine with her navy blue trucker uniform, her matching cap, and disheveled short blonde hair. A chubby black and white feline walked up to her side and let out a meow. That was his first stood up and noticed Ein. Oh, great. Why the hell did you have to bring a dog here? Vicky! Trudy was the first to greet her in an enthusiastic manner. It was definitely a sight for sore eyes. She'll never forget the first and only time when she and Spike met her on a bounty hunting mission. It was when she warmed up to them, no longer thinking that all hunters were the scum from outer space. He was the first and only person that guessed her name correctly after they were separated and gazed into her pendant while floating in zero gravity. Victoria Terpsichore, also known as VT, along with her cat Zeros, offered to use the heavy metal queen. I still loathe those bounty hunters. Except you guys. You're alright. But after receiving some troubling news about the Red Dragons War, my trucking business seemed to get put on hold. Then I began thinking my late husband, the most famous bounty hunter, Ural Terpsichore, was assassinated during a mission by one of the radicals in the syndicate. Probably the guy that looks similar to that overrated villain Sephiroth. Vicious. Well, we lost Spike after he was slewed by him and the syndicate. But then he was revived by Vicious's violent blood, which made him and the rest of the fallen bloodthirsty assassins. We believe they're stationed in Olympus Mons thanks to Edward here. The trucker sighed as Zero sulked. Very sorry to hear. Spike was a good man. I wish I'd see him more. So, with this interstellar conflict coming round, I guess maybe I'll use my truck for logistics. She said she'd gladly provide her massive truck as transport for those who never had their own spacecraft, particularly the Pokemon trainers in Eddie's family. Although I should warn you, Those devils in the Syndicate can be very sneaky and approach vulnerable planets. It's possible that they could use a dark gate since they're designed for secretive space travel for criminals as they remain undetected. It's most likely that they'll impact Earth this way. So Zero commanded the Maverick Hunters to remain at the base on high alert for any intruders, even though they're not primarily used to combating humans. Don't hesitate to fire. Believe me, you'll be doing us a favor. The Reploids offered to load the Heavy Metal Queen with food, supplies, fuel, and ammunition. Vicky decided to use it for logistics, supplying the group with whatever they needed for victory. An army can only run on their stomach, after all. Little did the gang know that the Reploids offered for something even more. Later on, the trainers showed up, and X and Zero offered everyone the armor they made, even for their Pokemon. The backpacks were filled to the brim with berries, super potions, remedies, and the like. Most of the combatants were given shoulder, knee, and chest plates, light and flexible mail, bulletproof vests, and even helmets with small mouthpieces for some of the Pokemon to use. While Vicky and the Reploids got busy, Ed and her family, along with the Red Dragon Hunters, decided to stretch out their legs, take in some fresh air, and enjoy the scenery at the tranquil Floccesy Ranch's countryside, requested by Lizzie and Beth. It was the perfect place since Edward, Faye, Jet, and Trudy were known to be interplanetary cowboys and cowgirls. Ayn and Edward adored the cute Pokemon as they and Zeros played around with Pikachu, Vulpix, Azumarill, Pachirisu, Arcanine, Rapidash, Emolga, Dedenne, as well as the other little critters. Faye also admired the attention, including discussing tactics with all the other females on the team. Edward and the pets even slid down Aurora's neck several times, though the Tundra Pokemon had to stay in her Pokeball to remain cold for a while. Everyone had some fun on the ranch even when they stopped to have a late afternoon lunch and dinner. Both Mr. Appledilhy and McIntyre, to which he kept forgetting his name, offered to repair any collateral damage made by the Red Dragon War, whether it be on Earth, Mars, or elsewhere. They also pitched in on any more intel regarding the enemy organization, and Mary and Zero decided to use the lighter Pokemon as infantry once they marched onto the battlefield. Jenny decided to use the massive Pokemon from the rear as tanks and brutes, while X decided to let the more balanced fighters stay within the center as they breach enemy lines so they could cover the other squads better. Although everyone pitched in for the march to Mars's perilous mountain, Jet, McIntyre, and Mr. Appledilhy were chatting of something of their own, hesitating on being active soldiers. When night fell, Zero and X advised the small army forces to get some decent shut-eye, which was mostly difficult as they all had so much on their minds. Would they ever return alive and reunite with their loved ones? Would they fail getting Spike restored? Or would they meet their untimely deaths and wind up as undead assassins like so many others in the Syndicate? Trudy clutched the wandering star pendant, praying for their success, looking up at the stars, wondering if Laughing Bull's good fortune would come into fruition. As champions turned enlisted women, Maverick Hunters turned men at arms, and Bounty Hunters turned braves, the worst was surely yet to come for the Red Dragon Hunters. I wish that Idionoben, one of my favorite YouTubers, would actually pay attention to this. This highlights a lot of his favorite stuff, mostly Pokemon and the Mega Man series. And anime. Not sure if whether or not he's a fan of the Bebop series, but I really wish he would continue to review the Mega Man X series from X5 and so forth, rather than just ranking them. It should be noted that these Red Dragon Wars in Mars are quite appropriate. The upcoming conflict and the one against the White Tigers take part in a planet that was named after the Greek god of war. Also, during the last scene, I think... well, yeah, those are just songs. I know this session was a bit too brief, but I never thought of a lot of details here. Hopefully I'll have another win next time around. Which sucks, because I don't want it to drag on for too long. So until then, this is the Ecron Writer signing out. See ya, space cowboys and cowgirls.